Hey everyone, welcome back to another CollectA review. Today we're taking a look at the Deluxe Mamenchisaurus. I ended up getting this figure along with some of the other 2021 dinosaurs from MiniZoo. This figure retails for $29.99, and I'll leave a link to MiniZoo in the description of this video. So I was kind of surprised by the size of this figure. On CollectA's site, it's listed as a 1/100 scale figure, and that is not the case. I kind of expected it to be a lot smaller, so I was very surprised, happily surprised by the size of this figure, and I think it's an excellent looking Mamenchisaurus, but we'll get into the size of it and the scale a little bit later on in the review. So let's pop this long neck boy up on the turntable and take a closer look. So let's start with this 360-degree view of this beautiful figure. Seriously, I can't get enough of this thing. I have not put it down since I got it in the other day, and I just love the pose on it. That long neck is slightly arching to the side with the tail pointing in the opposite direction. Adds a lot of character to this sculpt. It looks great from any angle you're viewing it from, and I just love the scale detail on here. A lot of companies tend to scale their large Sauropod figures with just folds and wrinkles, but CollectA scaled this figure from head to toe, and it looks really great. Yeah, the color scheme is a little bit drab. It's mostly just a couple different shades of gray, but there's this light brown wash over the whole figure. It kind of looks like dirt caked up between the scales, which brings out all that beautiful scale detail even more. And this thing is just amazing looking, and I love that insanely long neck. Mamenchisaurus had one of the longest necks of any animal that ever existed. Alright, let's just do a couple quick measurements on this figure. This figure, if you measure it along the curve of the neck and curve of the tail, is 19.5 inches long and just about 9 inches tall to the top of the head. So on the card that came with this figure, it's listed as a 1/100 scale figure. That is not the case. If you compare those size estimates to the largest known species of Mamenchisaurus, Sinocanidorum, which is a 115-foot long animal, which makes this one of the largest known dinosaurs, that will put this in the 170 scale range. Now, since this figure is sculpted with a tail club, the species Mamenchisaurus hochhawaiiensis, where the tail club is currently assigned to, that animal is 69 to 72 feet long. So I'll put this figure in the 142 to the 145 scale range. So yeah, the scale is kind of all over the place with this figure. So you just kind of pick which species you want it to be and just go with that scale. So let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with the head sculpt. This is a great looking Mamenchisaurus head. You can see the eyes painted in black, and it's done with glossy black paint to give it that wet look. You can see the light reflecting off it, which gives it a little bit of character. The nostril is sculpted in right here. You can make out all the teeth in the jaw are painted, and let's see if we can get the light inside the mouth. The mouth is painted in pink, but this is such a tall figure. It's kind of hard for me to review in my studio lights. Are not really picking up that mouth details. It's casting a shadow in there. And now you can see this figure is just covered in scale detail from head to toe, and it looks really, really great on here. Like I said, a lot of companies, when they do large Sauropod figures, they just kind of give it folds and wrinkles. So I'm very happy that CollectA did this, and there's some really large osteoderms sculpted in rows all the way down this figure. And they have a nice row of spikes starting right at the top of the head, and they're painted in a light brown color, and that row of spikes goes all the way down right to the very tip of the tail. And this neck on this figure is just insanely long. A lot of nice muscle definition. The base of the neck is nice and thick and girthy. That's what she said. And then going down to the front legs, you got some nice muscle definition for the front legs right here. The feet have the correct number of claws with just the inner thumb claw exposed. And then turn the figure over. You get a light gray coloration for the underside of this animal with more of that really nice scale detail. Even the bottom of the feet. Let me get the camera to focus in on that. Has some really nice detail on there. You can make out all the digits. And then going down to the main body, have some nice, more of that nice scale detail with that light brown wash that kind of gives this figure that dirty look, like dirt's been crusting up between the scales for a long time. You got more of those large osteoderms. And look at the figure from the top, you can see it has a nice wide chunky belly. And then going down to the hind legs, same thing, some nice muscle definition. Same thing with the hind feet, as this figure is banging into the studio lights on the side. You can see the three toe claws are nicely painted in. Same thing on the side of the feet are also nicely sculpted with some nice scale detail. And yes, we do have the typical CollectA dirty bum hole, but this one's a little bit cleaner than most, so I guess someone might hit this with some baby wipes before it shipped. And then the tail has some nice thick muscle definition at the base, and then all the way down, you can see that tail club sculpted in. And like I said earlier, I think the only known Mamenchisaurus that had the tail club was Mamenchisaurus Hochoanaensis, and even that's up for debate. The Mamenchisaurus, the whole species, is kind of a mess. It's almost like the Megalosaurus of Sauropod. It's basically a wastebasket taxon. So let's move this big boy out and let's move on to comparisons. So moving on with comparisons, let's start with a couple species that lived alongside Mamenchisaurus. Here it is with the Pianeso Tojangasaurus, and here it is with the Pianeso mini Yangchuanosaurus. And here it is with another sauropod species that had a tail club. Here it is with the Safari Limited Shunosaurus. And let's do a couple CollectA sauropods. Here it is with their Brontosaurus, and here it is with their Bottonosaurus. And next up, here it is with the Eofauna Atlasaurus. You can see these two figures are very similar in size. The CollectA Mamenchisaurus is just a hair taller and a little bit longer, but for the most part, they're pretty much the same size figure. And here it is with another Pianeso figure. Here it is with their mini Mamenchisaurus, and I actually don't own the larger scale version of this figure, and I always kick myself every time I remind myself of that. I'm a huge fan of sauropod figures, and for some reason that larger Pianeso one just always keeps slipping my mind. And I do eventually want to get it, but they just release so many figures so fast, I feel like I'm never going to catch up with them. It's actually one of the very few figures from them I don't own. So yeah, definitely have some buyer's regret on my mind. And let's do this comparison. I've had a couple people ask me on Facebook to do this one. Here it is with the Papo Brachiosaurus. And lastly, let's do a few Safari Limited sauropods. Here it is with their Brachiosaurus. Here it is with their Apatosaurus, which is still a personal favorite of mine. And here it is with their Diplodocus. Now, all three of these figures kind of scale pretty well with each other. I think they all look nice in a setup like this. The scale isn't perfect, but, you know, if you want a nice, you know, kind of in scale sauropod display, these figures actually do work kind of well with each other. So final thoughts on this CollectA Mamenchisaurus. I absolutely love this figure. Large sauropod figures have been far and few between the last few years, so I'm happy to finally add another one to my collection. And for 30 bucks, this is a good size figure. Like I said, I was very surprised by the size of it because it's listed as 1/100 scale, but that's not the case, and this thing is just awesome. And I'm calling it right now. I know it's the end of April, but I definitely see this figure showing up on my top 10 dinosaur figure list of 2021 at the end of the year. That's how much I like this thing. And plus the neck can substitute in for some pole dancing. Show your stuff off, Air Razor. And like I said at the beginning of the review, I ended up getting this figure from MiniZoo. Retails for 30 bucks. Link is in the description of this video if you want to pick one up for yourself. So that would do it for the review. I still have a few more new CollectA figures to review, and I still got, I think, 4 or 5 more Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsians, which I'll be working on. So be on the lookout for those reviews in the next coming week or two. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated. I'll see you guys for the next one.